This is the first estate. This lesson centers on 7 spirits are unbreakable Tobies. On your screen, you see the name Williams, Lost Tribes of Israel. As you scroll down, you'll see that the symbol is a rose. Moving on, this is here, and I'm going to concentrate on a particular portion of this name, and that will be the Germanic portion, Wilhelm. Okay, helm equals helmet. Now, the top left-hand corner of the screen, that's where you can keep track of the biblical verses I will be using throughout this lesson. I'm going to start with the Songs of Solomon, chapter 2, verse 1. I am the rose of Sharon and the lily of the valleys. Now, Solomon is the son of King David, and this is also the bloodline of Jesus. So the name Williams is of that bloodline. Okay, so as we move on, this is the Nag Hammadi, and these are Gnostic texts. Gnostic comes from the Greek word gnosis, which means the secret or hidden knowledge of God or the science of God. Okay, and that's what we're going to be going into. So, in this book, we're going to go to the Gospel of Truth, and the Father knows his plans in paradise. So, second paragraph, the Father is at rest and will. Nothing happens without his pleasure. Nothing happens without the Father's will. And his will is incomprehensible. His will is his footprint. Now, like your fingerprint, your footprint is your signature. Like going into the woods, you see an enormous foot, then you know Bigfoot exists, and you most likely will take off running. So, moving on, this brings us to the Strong's Concordance. This book contains the definition of every word in the King James Bible, Old and New Testament. This book will be my aid in helping convey this lesson. So, back to will. From the Blue Letter Bible, Strong's Concordance, and as you can see, what one wishes or has determined shall be done. Because everything came into existence via the will of God. So you know that will is an actual entity. William or Williams. Okay? Created all things. So this is actually the main house of God is Williams. We're going to confirm that right about now. So once again, top left-hand corner of your screen. And we're going to go to Book of James, chapter 3, verse 4. Behold also the ships, which though they be so great and are driven of fierce winds, yet are they turned about with a very small helm, whithersoever a governor listeth. Even in Jesus' infant state, he could guide a ship. He is the governor. Okay? So, Wilhelm, confirmed. It is in the scripture, the name Williams. All right? So, with that, we're going to move on from whithersoever the governor listed. And that brings us here to the word governor right here. Okay? Prince, captain. All right? So, and with that, our main concentration here is clouds. So it's all one, all means the same thing, clouds. He maketh the clouds his chariot. Okay, so moving along, we come here. Now, we're going to go to the next verse, and that will be in the book of Job, chapter 38, verse 37. Who can number the clouds in wisdom, or who can stay the bottles of heaven? Okay, so the bottles of heaven, i.e., the clouds. All right, so now bottle also pitchers. Okay? Not like a picture you hang on your wall, but a pitcher that you use to hold water. Okay? So, with that, we're going to move along. Now, here we have an individual, a black man, holding a pitcher. Okay? Now, in the book of Mark, chapter 2, and we're going to go to verse 22. And no man putteth new wine into old bottles, else the new wine doth burst the bottles, and the wine is spilled, and the bottles will be marred. But new wine must be put into new bottles. Okay? All right? So, as we move along, brings us here. New wine must be put into new bottles. Okay? So we know that the bottle is a pitcher. All right? So, in the book of Luke, chapter 22, verse 10. So, Luke, chapter 22, verse 10. And he said unto them, Behold, when ye are entered into the city, there shall a man meet you, bearing a pitcher of water. Follow him into the house where he entered in. Okay? So now we know, or it's taking shape, that the man is actually the little man holding the pitcher. But we're going to concentrate on the key here. So the key, kera mion. All right? So remember that. We're going to break it into syllables. All right? So back to the key, keras. Okay? Which means a horn. All right? That's what it means. A horn. Okay? Now, hair of the head. Okay? So that's what it means. Keras means horn. So, with that, we're going to go to the book of Revelations, chapter 5, verse 6. And I beheld, and lo, in the midst of the throne and of the four beasts, and in the midst of the elders, stood a lamb, as it had been slain, having 7 horns and 7 eyes, which are the 7 spirits of God sent forth into all the earth. Okay? So we've broken down this portion, what the horn is. Okay? Now, second portion of that word is right here. And it is mion, which means for its small size. Okay? So keras means horn, and mion means for its small size. Now, we're going to go to the book of Isaiah, chapter 7, verse 25. And on all hills that shall be digged with the mattock, there shall not come hither the fear of briars and thorns, but it shall be for the sending forth of oxen, and for the treading of lesser cattle. So you see, for the treader of lesser cattle, these are people with no fear. Okay? So, keras mion, 7 spirits, no fear. Okay? For its small size. So remember this. This word means for its small size. All right? So once again, brings us to here. And this is actually known as Toby. Okay? Now, moving on. Okay? So here we have the word Toby. And they have an image of, a European. But we know differently. Okay? So, a drinking mug, usually in the shape of a stout man wearing a large 3-cornered hat. All right? So Toby, see, Toby spelled 2 different ways. with a Y, or Tobies, I-E. All right? So with that, we're going to move along. And as you can see, the Apocrypha of the King James Bible. This book is rather valid, quite valid. It is valid. If you go to the 1611 King James Bible, if you purchase one, you will actually find this book right in there. Okay? All the books of the Apocrypha. So when we move on from the Apocrypha, we'll go within, should say, the Apocrypha, and we're going to go to 1 Maccabees chapter 5, and we're going to find verse 13. So that'll be right here. So 1 Maccabees chapter 5, verse 13. Yea, all our brethren that were in the places of Toby are put to death. Okay? Their wives and their children also they have carried away captives and borne away their stuff. And they have destroyed them about 1,000 men. So we know captives means slave. Okay? So we know that this is speaking of the Israelites. All right? Borne away their stuff. Born also means carry. Born with E. Okay? So there you have Toby written right in the scripture. So brings us to the miniseries known as Roots. And I'm not going to read this synopsis or plot of the miniseries, but you can go see the movie for yourself if you like. But anyway, this individual here, okay, he's known as Kunta Kinte in the movie. All right, so right here you see he said, no, my name is Toby, and they tried to break him. They said, no. Well, he said, Kunta Kinte, I believe it was. It's been a while, many decades since I've seen this movie, saw the movie. Okay, but we'll just read it. His name was Kunta Kinte, kidnapped from Africa and enslaved in America in 1767. He refused to accept his slave name Toby. Okay, so he refused to accept his slave named Toby. I believe it was reversed. I believe they wanted him to call himself Kunta Kinte, and you know, and he refused. He wanted to be known as Toby because we know what Toby means. Okay, but anyway, they had a hell of a time breaking him, breaking his spirit. Could not do it. Okay, now I'm going to move on, and like I said, you can watch the movie. It's many parts to the movie, but anyway, 25th anniversary edition with the movie Roots, and we're going to go here. So, in the book of John, chapter 4, verse 22, ye worship, ye know not what. We know what we worship, for salvation is of the Jews. Okay? So, here, see, Jew also means Judah. And Judah, this particular frame, Judah means praised, the son of Jacob by Leah. So, brings us here. Okay? After the division of the kingdom, the name of this tribe was applied to one of the kingdoms, which included the tribes of Judah and Benjamin with a portion of Simeon and Dan, and had Jerusalem for its metropolis. After the carrying away of the 10 tribes and after the Babylonian exile, this name is applied to the whole land of Israel. So all 12 tribes are known as Judah or Jews even though they still have their distinct tribal names, okay, and their blessings, inheritance. But they're one bloodline and of one race, and that is black, pure blood blacks, okay? So we're going to go to the book of Jeremiah, chapter 14, verse 2. Judah mourneth, and the gates thereof languish. They are black unto the ground, and the cry of Jerusalem is gone up. Now, what makes this interesting is that, circling back to that movie Roots, Alex Haley was a black man. Yeah, he's dead now, I believe. But he helped put together this fake narrative of this movie that the blacks, came from Africa when we were already here in America. We're just prisoners of war. This is our land. Okay? But he was one of the gatekeepers that fed lies to the black community. So it says the gates thereof languish. Languish means weak, feeble. And we are in the process now of cleaning that up. So all of you gatekeeping blacks who are on the wrong side of righteousness, you're in a whole heap of trouble now because it's reckoning season. Okay? So I will leave it at that. But anyway, this has been the first estate, and I will see you in the next lesson.